All right, this is my friend Strat. About a week ago, I guess, I did some rewiring on it, and we were both much happier with it. There remains one major issue. Two, really. One and a half. Two. Number one, this guitar is not fully shielded, and even with these noiseless pickups, there's some hum and buzz. And then the number two position, you don't have any hum rejection at all, and that can be real problematic for him on stages. Now, like any Strat with single coils, it'll have quieter orientations and noisier orientations, but that's a hassle, especially for the contexts where he plays it. So what we're going to do is he played my Strat, which has a humbucker and SSS, and what I do is I have it wired so this position is either this pickup with this pickup, just humbucker and single coil together, or maybe I'm going to try it, see which one he likes. The other option is to split this into parallel rather than series and have the parallel bridge pickup in parallel with the middle pickup. And that does give a sound much more like a real Strat. The other issue is I'm going to do a partial shielding job on this. It has no shielding of any note underneath the plate, and I'm going to do that. Normally I would shield the inside of the guitar, but he's actually replacing this body with a MJT Blackwind soon, and I will shield the body cavity when that comes. But just getting the full shield on the top plate should help a bit. Let me let you hear the pickups before we do any changes. So there's that noise. And then the other issue is just the number two has got too much quack. So here's a sense of what the amp and guitar sound like. This is one of the 68 deluxe reverbs I gutted and rebuilt, and it is through another client's deluxe reverb cabinet with the Weber F150 speaker that's in that, which is very similar in some ways to a Jensen C12N. The Weber F150, 12F150 has been historically a great speaker paired with the deluxe reverb. I have observed some quality control issues from Weber in the past several years since Ted died, but when you get a good one, it's a good one. So all that sounds pretty good. But when you get to the number two, aside from the noise, it's really scooped and hollow and sounds very 80s. And that can be pleasing, but let me compare it to an actual number two position in a regular Strat without the humbucker. Still has a nice glassiness, but it's not as scooped out as the one on the other Strat with the HSS. The other thing about this Strat, besides it has the Kinman noiseless pickups versus the DiMarzios and that, is this one is fully shielded. So much lower noise floor. And in fact, I can take my hands off the strings, and the buzz doesn't increase. Let me go back to his guitar and I'll show you that. And I'll show you why his guitar sounds thin. All right, this is his guitar. I'm going to go to one of the silent positions. It's still noisier. If I take my hands off the strings, the noise gets bigger. It's because it's not shielded well. There's always that myth out there that if you have humbuckers or quiet pickups, silent pickups, you don't need shielding because humbucking only affects 60 cycle. It doesn't handle environmental noise, RFI, and all that stuff. So once the guitar is properly shielded, it will not be susceptible to this noise. The whole thing will quiet down, and you'll still have plenty of high end because I'm going to be doing it intelligently. Now, the reason this position is noisy is because you only have the one coil of this humbucker in parallel with the middle humbucker, stacked humbucker DiMarzio, so they don't have any noise in common, so it's not being canceled out. And the reason this is scooped and thin and hollow is because this pickup pole, this coil of the pickup is physically closer to this pickup than it is on the Strat, where it starts about here but then angles. So by the time you get to the middle, it's much farther back, and by the time you get to the treble, it's a lot farther back. So there are more frequencies in common between this coil and this coil than there are on the regular Strat. So that's why you get more of the mid-range scoop. There's more frequencies in common, so there's more to cancel. Now, if you have this setup, and aside from that hum, you're happy with the sound, that's fine. There have been a lot of great records made with that kind of scooped, coil tapped, single coil humbucker and single coil blend. But this neck middle sounds a lot more like a real Strat. And I'd like to have the whole thing sound like a real Strat. And believe it or not, this in parallel with itself, in parallel with this, sounds a lot more like a real Strat. And you'll see that at the end of this. But other than the noise issue and that one wonky position, this guitar is really sounding great. So I'm going to go make some changes on this and you'll get to hear it afterwards. All right, taking it apart again, I'd only put 3 screws back in the pick guard because I figured I'd probably be going back in for that number 2 issue. You can see that piss yellow left here. Someone at the owner's request had stained the entire thing this yellow as if it had aged, and the owner's sweat had rubbed it away, so there were big white blotches. It was kind of reverse aging. The plastic was newest where he used it the most. So I got this groovy tool in. It's a nut thing and a knob puller and all that, and it's great for Gibsons. It does not want to get underneath this tone knob or the other knobs on the Strat. And my solution for that has always been traditionally a stainless steel, let me do my right hand so maybe I have a chance of success, a stainless steel spoon. It just kind of gets under the edge and then rocks up using it as a lever, and the stainless steel doesn't hurt anything, it's very burnished. But I cannot do this one-handed. I've got to pull up with my left hand a little bit to get it started, so just 1 second. All right, I got it rocked up just a little bit, and then bloop. That's all it takes. Well, it's not screwed in, so one more bloop, bloop. Make me wanna bloop, bloop, bloop. Let me take this out now. Sorry if my voice sounds a little bit different. I forgot to get the lav mic from the other room, and for this little bit, I don't think it's gonna matter. I'll have good sound quality when you hear the guitar, but for right now, you can have a little bit of extraneous noise as I'm just fiddling with bits. I want to show something about the shielding in this guitar. So if I go from this shielding lug attached to the body to the bridge, I measure, if I can get this to stay put. It's hard to do this one-handed. All right, I got 2 ohms that way, and I've got 30 ohms from this to the output jack. That's not a good ground. I need to check what's going on with the output jack. But if I measure from this ground lug here to the shielding paint in the guitar, get 126 ohms. If I measure from here to here in the shielding, 180 ohms, so it's a huge jump there. If I measure from there to over here, there's no continuity. There's some exposed shielding here. They have shielding underneath this clear coat, but the shielding is for shit. It is marketing shielding, not actually doing anything. So it doesn't matter if this ground wire has 2 ohms continuity with the bridge and has not the best continuity, but some continuity to the output jack. It's because this isn't really doing anything with the shielding, and this shielding isn't doing squat. So this would normally be replaced with real paint or copper, but we're waiting for a new body on this guitar. So I'm just going to take this stuff out, redo it, and put it back with the real shield, at least on the back of the pickguard, and see what difference that makes. Now, this is the stock output jack on this, was a Texas Fats Special Roadhouse Blues Patrick Swayze guitar, whatever the model was. So anyway, a lot of buffing compound on the jack and the plate, and that ground wire is not the best connection. It's bird's nesting a little bit where the unsoldered wires are wanting to come a little bit loose. So I'm going to reflow that, and I'm going to twist the hot and black together for a little bit better mechanical support, and I'll show that. Alright, that wire will give better mechanical support in the future. I'll make sure it's not interfering with the operation of the jack once it's installed. I cleaned up both solder joints. The one on the white wire, the positive, was real grainy. When you see a gray, grainy texture to a solder joint, it moved before it cooled. Now, this jack in the past has been real chewed up by someone. There's some partially stripped threads there, and marks like someone used the wrong tool. It takes a 1/2-inch socket wrench, really, and it looks like that someone kind of boogered it up. There might be some super glue or something in there. That will be a problem I will kick down the road, but right now it is tight, has good connections, and there's no need to spend his money unnecessarily. So this will go back through that hole in the body into the cavity. I'll screw this back in place and move on to the fun stuff. Alright, I got some aluminum with adhesive backing, and this stuff is not cheap, and I want to make it last. So I've positioned the pickguard in such a way that I can use the least amount to do this, and I'm going to trace around it with an X-Acto and get the bulk of these holes, and then once I have that, I can apply it to the pickguard and trim off any excess or neaten it up. So let me do this off camera, because this is definitely a two-handed job. Alright, much nicer, and once this is installed, that'll at least have good consistent shielding on one plane, and when the new body arrives and we shield the cavities, it'll contact this and all will be well. Now, I was about to button it up, but I realized after looking at it more closely that these pots here are pretty much crap. They're really crappy quality. They're not the real CTS, and as much as he is investing in this guitar piece by piece with a new MJT body, and he had the neck refretted really nicely by Bobby Scobie with some beautiful oval profile frets, it makes more sense to spend the $15 and get some good pots in here. So we're going to pause this here, and you'll get to hear the after in a second video, and through the magic of computers, I'll be able to do a little bit before and after in that same video. I was hoping to get all this finished. One thing I can do right now is put this knob back on, and someone was kind of asking why I had some tight bond on my bench, and that's exactly one of the reasons why. Let me get the cap off. It doesn't want to come off. Alright, a little bit of tight bond on that metal on the switch, and once that sets up, it bonds really well between metal and plastic, and that knob won't fall off typically, but it's breakable. So if you want this knob to come off, you can really tug hard and it will come off. So it's a non-permanent but very secure glue to use. Someone was also asking about the hot sauce. Well, I should think that was obvious.